Now, Herwig, we've got the ending segment, the one that we're most excited about, and that's our main topic. And so today we're talking about security token legality. We spent an episode, maybe 5 or 6 episodes ago, discussing some of these details of the regulation and who's really defined security token. And so, as we've said earlier in the episode, and as I think it's important to consistently reiterate until every country around the world has defined STOs, is that we define an STO as a digital representation of an asset or right to an investor. And so that's a legally binding contract between the digital token and the underlying asset or right. Underlying asset being equity, ownership in a business, or ownership in a specific real-world asset. But it could also be rights to an asset in terms of rights to future revenue. It could be a rights to a coupon of a bond. It could be rights to governance and other things as well that can be included in that investment package. And so that's how we define it as a security token. It's a asset-backed digital token.
And many jurisdictions around the world have defined it exactly the same way.
Perfect.
And that's what's exciting. That's why we're saying they are officially legal. Yes, they've been legal all along, we know. But ultimately what we're getting at is that there are now over 12 jurisdictions around the world that have officially put out legislation focused on defining security tokens and as well, typically at the same time, cryptocurrencies and the like. And specifically, we have news, a little more information from Russia, a great article covering everything that's happening out of Russia, and also Liechtenstein passing their own progressive blockchain act just 2 weeks ago. So let me first give you guys a little bit of coverage on the crypto bill out of Russia. There's actually 3 of them. The focus really is the third bill, which is the one that's primarily designed around clarifying STOs and ICOs. But it's worth mentioning that ultimately the 3 bills do define it similar to the FCA as we've seen, where they have their exchange tokens, utility tokens, and security tokens. Russia will be defining them as utility or technical tokens, security tokens, and virtual assets, or the equivalent of exchange tokens via the FCA. I think that's one of the more popular approaches that we've seen by other jurisdictions as well, and makes complete sense to have a clear definition between the 3. More so, companies who want to actually assist in the fundraising process, and it's unclear if this is providing the technology or more specifically focused around the fundraising and crowdfunding angle, but regardless, they will need to register with the central bank in order to offer those services, similar to a broker-dealer or a registered crowdfunding portal here in the U.S., but they're clearly going to be regulating this thing very strongly. There are also current laws in Russia already preventing retail investors from investing all of their money into private offerings, and in this case, also STOs and ICOs. And this is actually, the limit is 600,000 rubles. And for those of you not familiar with your conversions, that's about $9,000 US that they are limited to investing. Russia's central bank, finally, is also worth mentioning, has a definite strong opinion about Bitcoin, if you will, calling it a high-tech pyramid scheme. So there's definitely tension in the country, but the government is very clear that they are looking to enter into the new age of finance and clarifying the security token laws and ICO and cryptocurrency regulations. So it's safe to say they're officially bullish. They're officially in on the race.
I'm happy that they draw that distinction. I think that regardless of how you feel about Bitcoin, security tokens is really just digitizing current securities. It's essentially taking paper securities from the 80s and putting them into the online world in the 2000s and 2010s, right? Most of the equities or stocks or bonds that you're trading are through brokerages online anyway. And so we're essentially just kind of making the same jump from traditional securities into a more digital form that can be exchanged even more freely than the way that we're doing them now. And so regardless of how you feel about crypto, it's good. I'm happy that Russia is supporting and embracing this new vehicle for securities.
Yeah, I think it's super because they're also a major country in the world, and they're showing the light that there's reinforcing the fact that there's a sort of 3-pronged model, which I'm a big fan of. I think is great. Moving on, Liechtenstein had a little bit more of a progressive, if not one of the most progressive approaches, probably even more progressive than Malta, I think.
Love to see it.
And even so progressive, in fact, Kyle, that it's actually not called the Blockchain Act. They in fact, reference blockchain very little, if at all, throughout the entire language in an effort to future-proof the laws themselves.
Wow.
So they actually refer to it as Tokens and Trustworthy Technology Service Providers Law, which translates into the TVTG law. And ultimately, what they're referring to, blockchain in this case, is trustworthy technologies. So that's an interesting approach. And they do have something called the token container model, which is essentially a framework designed to encompass tokenization of just about anything. So that's why I mean that they're more progressive, where they're very pro-crypto, but pro-rights, pro-really tokenizing actions, events, rights, assets, securities, cryptos, stable coins, commodities, etc. They've gone into it extensively, and I look forward to learning more about the token container model myself as I do my research. But I think this is very big news. The country's always been very pro digital securities and security tokens for a while, and now it's really official, and the laws themselves will kick in 2020.
This is cool. They kind of essentially said, we don't know what exactly is going to take off, so we're going to define everything we can so that no matter what you want to do, you're going to be able to do it. That's fantastic. That's some active participation from a jurisdiction that we certainly haven't seen in many others. So bravo to them for being so transparent and being so collaborative, because the reality is that the quicker that we can do exactly what they've done in as many jurisdictions, that the quicker this is actually going to benefit small businesses, benefit the investors that aren't able to access. It's going to really benefit the people. So, the quicker that we can make, this possible is better.
Totally agree. In fact, we've seen over the last couple months of coverage numerous other jurisdictions get into the game and also define security tokens. I don't think it's because they listen to our podcast. I think they did it proactively, and it's really great. We started covering that list of countries that do have sort of official security token language or are in the works of something, and they've shared it with the public. Kyle, I think you have that list.
Yeah, we've got a few other countries as well, the UK, Switzerland, Abu Dhabi, with Dubai interested as well, Gibraltar, Malta, Seychelles, Japan, Singapore, Taiwan, and Thailand. All have had official security token definition language. We excluded a few from this list that have approved some sort of security token infrastructure without specifically defining it. One of those maybe being the US. And so the question kind of is, Herwig, where does the US stand?
Yeah, that's a very popular question, Kyle, and you're right, because in fact, security tokens have not been defined in the U.S. I would say right now that the 12 or 13 countries and jurisdictions that we've just mentioned are more progressive right now than the U.S. by proactively going ahead and defining security tokens so that digital securities infrastructure can emerge. But also, I think the other component to consider is also the investor protections, right? It's one thing to have the traditional investor protections. It's another to now be investing in a new instrument and to have uncertainty as to how and what rules and what new regulations are needed in order for this to be still a safe investment. And the U.S. has existing securities laws already. That's what the current security tokens are following. As you pointed out earlier, we have companies that are now cryptos that are doing compliant ICOs. So in this case, they are ICOs that are following U.S. securities regulations, but they themselves, based on at least these other jurisdictions that we're referring to, would not qualify as security tokens in those other regions. So in this case, that's why we are encouraging and urging the SEC to indeed create some kind of language around defining security tokens. They don't necessarily have to do a full-on approach like these other countries have, if you will, regarding also, stepping on other toes because of the commodities and utility tokens. That definitely is not just an SEC decision, and this might also require Congress participation as well. Who knows? So 2020 is not over, and we do hope that the U.S. is going to have some kind of definition around it. We have, many of you have also helped us voice our support with feedback to the SEC, so we know the SEC is actively listening and actively looking to optimize their private exemptions and potentially in regards to security tokens as well, thinking on that subject. So with that, the SEC or the USA is specifically sort of an asterisk, which is they have securities frameworks. Security tokens are legal there, and you can issue them, and they're trading. But at the end of the day, the United States themselves have not taken the step to define security tokens in their own manner, in their own right. And the rest of the world is starting to do so. Almost 10% of the world has now have some kind of language or legislation around this. So for 2020, I look at those countries as the leading innovators in the space, the early adopters, with the rest of the world looking to catch up, looking at them as the ones for examples and for also making mistakes and to figure out, how the second movers will actually adopt this technology. But, for us being so bullish on the space, Kyle, I have to say congratulations to those regions that have gone ahead and clarified security tokens, because I think 2020 is definitely the year of the security token. And with, again, that asterisk around the USA, those regions are going to be the front runners next year.
I think it's really just, you're totally right, that we're seeing a lot of great progress here in 2019, and the U.S. is upholding what a lot of people have seen in traditional financial markets, in the sense of the SEC takes a while, and they're not doing it very quickly, but that's okay. The reality is that we do need some standardization. I think that's the biggest key for me, is that with the U.S. defining a security token, it would allow for standardization of what that definition means and what these assets are across multiple international jurisdictions, because the trading between jurisdictions and that piece of it is still yet to be tested, still yet to be explored, and without proper definitions from each side, it does make it a little bit confusing. So that's a huge piece of it as well, is that for 2020 to be the year of the security tokens, I think that we need that standardization of the definition, and certainly we see it coming from many of these countries, and let's hope that they continue to do so throughout the rest of 2019 and into 2020, so that by the end of it we'll be ready to go.
So there you have it, folks. Security tokens are officially legal, and 2020 is going to be a heck of a year. We're still going to be, of course, doing our in-depth coverage throughout the rest of the year. Exciting advancements that will come out, and we hope you continue to follow us and listen. And I want to thank you for listening.
Thanks for everything. Talk to you next week.